Greetings and welcome back to my gaming channel thing. Today I have something in front of you that I've always wanted to get my hands on, so I decided to go on eBay and purchase it. This is the PlayStation 1 PocketStation, exclusive to Japan and fairly easy to get a hold of in the US. This thing only runs about $20 or so on eBay, and if you want one complete in a box, it'll run you typically around only 40 bucks or so. So it's not exactly the worst, or should I say, it's probably one of the cheapest import things that I've been able to get my hands on in recent years. But this basically was Sony's answer to the Dreamcast VMU. See, maybe I'll grab my VMU style. This was Sony's answer to the VMU. As you can see right there, it's considerably smaller, more lightweight. Actually, the Pocket one weighs a little. This one actually weighs just a little bit more, but this is actually heavier, maybe because it has a battery in it. I literally just unboxed this thing today, and I was screwing around with it. I had a Crash Bandicoot save that I had kind of imported, threw it on my PS2. If you got free McBoot, you can do that type of shit. So I was able to do that, and the first thing that struck me was how great the sound was on this thing. There's a little Crash Bandicoot guy dancing. There's the time, if you wanted to go. I mean, the sound on this thing is just incredible. I thought it was just the same type of monochrome speaker that you get with this. The one that's in this one's more of a beeper speaker. This one actually, it sounds like it's got a little bit something extra to it. I didn't expect the amount of sound out of it. I thought it sounded just like the VMU. I mean, I have no idea what the hell any of this stuff says. What the hell? Crash Bandicoot looks like he's going to take a piss. Or either that or he's having a massive shit attack. Trust me, I've been there, buddy. Everybody who's played PlayStation's fucked around with Hot Pockets, and that's where you end up, the bathroom. Not knocking Hot Pockets, just saying if you eat too many of them, you take a shit. Apparently he'd be right back. And okay. Because I don't understand the instructions, and they're all in Japanese, this is one of the game I can play. But I don't know what the hell it is. But listen to that sound. That's not your standard beeper sound. That sounds much better. Like, they actually put a decent speaker into this thing. This thing is the only one I can kind of get to play. You got to collect the apples, as far as that were to go. Some of these games have different mini games and stuff on them, which is something that I thought they were missing out on. But it was the original concept behind the Dreamcast VMU. Oops. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's definitely no beeper thing as far as that were to go. Now, this was exclusive. See, what's funny is that stuff is in English, but this was also this is an exclusive Japan thing. As far as that were to go, that it never came to the U.S. It was going to, and the reason that I found out that it never came over here was it had to do with something that they couldn't keep up with the demand in Japan, and that they never launched it here. So I guess it was very popular, and they just never. Either they didn't produce enough of them, they didn't think it was going to be as popular as it was, and they couldn't stock the shelves in Japan. So I guess they scrapped it for here. I do have a demo that actually has a video on PocketStation. As far as that were to go, that actually shows them coming out with it. You can battle with it. Oh yeah, this is an infrared sensor. So if you had two of them, unlike the Dreamcast one where you had to literally daisy chain them together like that and literally be stuck on top of each other, you could actually be pretty much across the room. So as far as innovative, it's definitely different than what Sega was doing. You could be across the room and battling somebody in Street Fighter, things like that. Now, I could probably get the saves from Street Fighter, because they are on the PS1 games, except they're on the PS1 Japanese games. So you either have to ROM the games, or import the games and play them on an imported PlayStation, or if you have a mod chip or something like that. Some old school thing. The easiest way to do it would probably be just ROM it and then run it. But then you'd have to find another one of these devices, plus you would have to get, someone else, another save on there to kind of battle. So, I mean, it's kind of monotonous right now, to do in this day and age. But it was something that was really neat that the VMU was kind of pushing. But this, I thought, had the better advantage over it. Actually, that's not a burn-in. That's actually the back of the silhouette. You can see the PlayStation in there. I think that's pretty cool. So, I mean, as far as that were to go, the only game in the United States that was released for this, there was either one or two games. I couldn't really, I think there was one game released in PAL, and I think there's one game released here. I believe there's only two games, my bad. I can't remember the other one, but it was a Square Enix game, and the other Square Enix, whatever you want to call it, was Final Fantasy VIII. And if you actually look in the manual of Final Fantasy VIII, you will actually see that it supports this VMU. It actually shows it in there, shows the instructions. That's probably the only game I could probably download in there and like play off of it where I can actually read everything, because that's the only one that's actually left on the disc. All the other ones they pulled off. So I mean, like Crash Bandicoot is the only one I remember just the only one I really want to screw with. Street Fighter Alpha 3. If you were to get the import version, they have all that stuff on there, but when they brought it over here to the US, all that stuff was ripped out off the games, US games. But the only ones that were released were two games as far as I was aware of in the US. One was Final Fantasy VIII and one was another Squaresoft game, which I can't remember. So, I mean, this game will be compatible. Now, what I found immediately funny is I had to transfer the save on my PS2, and I didn't know, being that this is the Japanese import, it's give or take whether they would recognize things the same way, because I don't have a Japanese PlayStation. I have just your regular PlayStation 2, fat PlayStation 2, fat Sony. But what's really cool is when I popped this in my PlayStation, at least the PlayStation 2, it actually recognized that it was the PocketStation, had the PocketStation image, and actually let me click on it, just like a regular memory card. But it actually let you know, which I thought was really neat, because I didn't think that it would even be compatible. Well, I'd read that it was compatible with US PlayStations. I didn't know it would recognize it anything past just a memory card. But yeah, it had here, I have my PlayStation on. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, is to insert it in the PlayStation. You have to actually lift this cover off and lift it up like that. And it says Sony underneath there, and you insert it this way. And just like the VMU, you'll see that on there. But what's neat about this is you actually get to see a little red light whenever you're saving a game to it, which I think is kind of neat. It lights up red to let you know that it's saving. There, let's pop this bad boy here. Okay, and oh, there it goes. Red light's on. I don't know if it says anything. Sorry, my lighting's kind of bad in there. Oh, it just has Crash Bandicoot. But we look up my PlayStation, and it actually shows the VMU. As far as that were to go. So it actually recognizes and it actually says PocketStation. Like, it just doesn't say memory card. Like, this one says memory card. This one literally says PocketStation. So, I mean, that's pretty neat that they were able to do that. I thought it was really freaking cool, to be quite honest with you. I popped that in there and I just laughed. I'm like, oh my god. But this is something that I've been wanting to get my hands on for a while, and I just never have. Actually, I thought they were more expensive than what they were. Let's put them back on my tripod. I thought these things were more expensive than they actually were, and for $20, I could have gotten. There was a whole bunch of different ones they were selling. They were selling this one. They sell there was clear ones. I believe this was the original one. If I wanted to, I could have gotten one complete in the box, not brand new but used. But I decided against it, mainly because I like to look at the manuals. I guess if I was a true collector, I should have gotten that one. But I like looking at the manuals, and I can't read Japanese, Korean, or whatever country they were also released this in. So there's almost no point. Not only that, it's not like I would really have the room for another box, anyways. Space is kind of limited where I'm at. But I mean, But I figured I'd just pick this up, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And this is probably one of the neatest. This is the only import thing I really technically own, and that actually wasn't a ridiculous price that I have looked at to pay for. So I mean, I thought that was really neat that they were able to, that wherever I bought this from was like $20, and the guy gave me his card and everything. And I figured why not? I'll plug it. I'll plug his eBay thing as well. I mean, this was the card I got with it. So so this guy that ever owns this, he must be the real deal. Nevertheless, that's a pretty neat looking card. When I seen that, I started laughing because that was what was in the package as well. Just said thank you for your order, things like that. I mean, out of most of the import stuff that I was looking for on for PlayStation, that was the seller that was popping up the most, at least as far as cheapest value were to go. There were other people selling the Pocket Stations for $30, $40, just this, $80, complete with box. But still, for something that's an import, $80 isn't that terrible, especially complete, or even $40 for that matter. So, I mean, it's not exactly horrible pricing either. But, I mean, it was just such a shock to me that I could get it for that low that I watched it for a few days for whatever reason. There was like 5 other people watching it, so I was like, I better buy this before this thing disappears. I mean, not to say that he wasn't selling other ones, but this is supposed to come with a wrist strap or a keychain wrist strap, something like that. It would go like right there. I wasn't too interested in that. Not like I would tote this around, but I do remember back in the late 90s, or should I say like 99, 2000, someone did have one of these. They had one imported back then. They owned a gaming store at the time, but I remember him having it on his keychain. He didn't really play PlayStation. It's just one of those things. If you walk into a game store and you see some guy just having that, just chilling like on his wrist, you're going to inherently ask, what the fuck is that? But yeah, this was just my little take on the Pocket Station. There's that. I mean, the speaker, I thought that was just a regular beeper speaker until I plugged it in, but I mean, you heard it. That is actually legit. For a beeper speaker, that's probably about as intricate as you could get. It just sounds really good, which is way better than the Dreamcast one was, I believe. And it only takes one battery. It doesn't take 2 like the Dreamcast, so I don't know how well the battery life on this thing is. The seller I bought it from had a piece of paper jammed in there so it wouldn't activate. So as soon as I took out that piece of paper, it activated right up and started right up. And I noticed right away, like it was like 3 or 4 different tones of beeping and I was like, that didn't sound like a regular beep, but that sounded like it was actually legitimate, like it had some source code to it or a better sound quality, sound chip. Out of something this small, I didn't expect it. But I mean, you never know what those Japanese people might come up with. It's so sad that they never actually really released this in the U.S. I really wish they would have. Actually, I could tell you the demo that it was on. Yeah, it was on a PlayStation Underground Jam Pack. That was the one I had. If you had the PlayStation Underground like CDs that you got 4 times a year, it's probably on one of those different volumes. But the one that I remember buying out of the store was a PlayStation Jam Pack, and there was a video in there, and they did a whole video on this about how it was going to revolutionize gameplay. You could take it on with you. You could power up your player on the go. And I was so excited for it.
Basically what the PDA does is it is a little mini memory card peripheral that plugs right into your PlayStation and allows you to download the characters from your original Alpha 3 game onto the Pocket Alpha 3 game in order to build up the characters while you're on the road. And then once you have them built up, you can easily upload them back to the PlayStation in order to play those edited characters. Another cool feature about Pocket Alpha 3 is that you can fight against your friends. Just take it around, point it at your friends, and use the infrared communication device at the top here to play against your friends anywhere.
But then, end of 99 comes, never heard of it again. Honestly, after that demo, after watching that video on that demo, I've never heard of it again. And it was actually right before the Dreamcast launched that I heard about their VMUs. And I remember telling my mother, oh, that's, Sony's coming out with something similar to that, and my mother looked at me like I was crazy. But I remember seeing it, and I've told people a lot of it since, before the internet was really a thing where people would find any information they wanted, and most people didn't want to believe it. They were like, they're never going to come out with that here, or, yeah, right, you mean the Dreamcast one. But this is the real deal. But yeah, that's basically the Pocket Station in a nutshell. I just love this little thing. For some reason, I get such a kick out of it. It's probably the only memory card, too, PlayStation-wise, that actually has a dust cover. I looked to see where this thing has traveled, and it's astonishing. of how far this traveled. I mean, you can look in there. It's had some. You can tell someone's had some use with this. You know, memory card wise, you can see the marks in and out. But I mean, it linked right up, and when my PlayStation recognizes it as a Pocket Station, and this thing is tiny. It is not much bigger than a standard memory card. Um, you know, as far as that were to go, but it's definitely smaller than the Sega Dreamcast one. So yeah, that's my little spiel on the Sony Pocket Station.